All right, and welcome into the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We are sitting in studio, and we are watching FIFA 19 highlights. This is riveting. Anybody got any information?
Why the fuck would we have information about that?
Because, look at it. It's Orlando City. It's MLS soccer. Don't you like MLS soccer? Do you want to talk about MLS soccer?
Should I follow MLS soccer?
I don't know.
I know Seattle's like, on a 6-game winning streak or something like that?
Sure, it sounds good to me.
I know the crowd seem to be into it at all these different events. Like, I've seen the Portland games and some of the Kansas City games, and those fans are fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Looks like it'd be a fun environment.
Yeah, I ended up actually getting this. I was playing FIFA because I was bored, but I ended up getting the game for free because eBay fucked up a shipment and sent that to me and something else, which wasn't even a video game. I think it was a puck, an autographed puck, I think it was a Devin Dubnyk puck. Anyways, I ended up with FIFA, and they were like, I sent them. I was like, I don't think this is mine. They're like, keep it. We'll send the guy another one. I'm like, okay, cool. So now I got FIFA for free.
Nice.
Anyways, long story short, there's my red card. Anyways, well, we thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't already tuned out by now, we wanted to give a couple of shout-outs before we dive in. We want to thank 12 Ounce Sports Radio for putting us on every week. And we know they're doing big things. They actually just collaborated with Sports Radio America. And hopefully the more bigger, this is more bigger, that's not a
more
word.
Bigger? Jesus, don't you have a master's degree?
The more they grow,
oh, for fuck's sake, the
better we can hopefully latch on. I'm stupider. We also want to thank Chai Poker for being one of our title sponsors and VGK Pop Sockets as well for being one of our sponsors. And we also want to thank, I forgot their name already.
12 Ounce Sports.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you just...
We'll thank them again. 12 Ounce Sports. There's somebody else I'm forgetting to thank, and it'll come to me at the.
I was lost in the FIFA highlights.
It'll come to me at the end of this podcast when should we start this over?
No, well, can't we just write this shit down so we don't forget it?
No, they don't pay me. I'm not gonna write it down.
Pop sockets.
For free advertising, that is way more work than I intend on doing.
Chai Poker? No, you got Chai Poker.
So are they advertisers if they don't pay advertising costs?
No, they're, what, collaborators?
Is that what we're going to go with? Thanks to our collaborators? That's too much of a multi-syllabic word.
Sponsors. Free sponsors.
Thanks to our intern sponsors. Oh, crap, and now I just knocked the thing out of my earphones. Hang on, technical difficulties.
Oh, my God.
What's an amateur hour around here?
All right, we're back online. I couldn't hear anything. I'm like, why can't I hear anything? Oh, wait. Earphones don't work.
It's amateur hour around
here. All right, anyways, well, after all that garbage, let's talk about some sports, because I think that's what we do, sports and betting, right? We're still on those formats?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
Let's talk about the thing that like Spike loves to talk about for the last couple of weeks, and that's Urban Meyer. And
I thought you were about to say punters.
No, he loves punters, but we're not. I'll wait till that football season until we get to the punters.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. There's some new developments, and I wouldn't say breaking news because nothing's really broke yet, but it's been leaked that Zach Smith took. You know what? Since we're uncensored and unfiltered, Zach Smith took dick pics in the White House.
Yeah, well, his ex-wife is alleging that he took dick pics in the White House in 2015. And the pictures allegedly show a wedding ring that matches Smith's wedding ring. Mm-hmm. But Smith's attorneys are claiming that it is not actually his dick in the picture. So either A, he was letting somebody borrow his wedding ring while this person was taking dick pics.
And his tie, apparently.
B, Zach Smith was using his hand to hold somebody else's dick in a dick pic. Or C, it's actually his fucking dick pic. And if we're going to go with the simplest answer is usually correct, I think the answer is C. Now, the problem is...
all of the above.
The problem is I did, on incognito mode, actually look to see if I could find these pictures anywhere on the internet to try to verify this myself. But alas, I could not find it. Even TMZ did not have the photos.
No, I don't see the photos anywhere, nor do I really want to. But speaking of TMZ, I'm reading it right now to get more information on it. And he took a picture and laid his dick on a towel with the presidential seal on it. How fantastic is that? Or allegedly, excuse me. I don't want to make any claims that I don't have the information.
So do you think that was a political statement?
Well, in 2015, that would have been Obama.
Right.
So,
I don't know.
Could have been.
I don't know Smith's politics. But...
Yeah, that's true. We don't want to bring his politics. God forbid we bring the politics into this story specifically.
Oh my! If we brought politics into that, I fucking talk enough of that shit with my father day in and day out. I don't need it on here too.
So Zach Smith's attorney tells Brett McMurphy of ESPN that none of the penis pics are actually his client, but didn't offer up an explanation as to any rebuttals. Also, it has been reported that Smith ordered $2,000+ in sex toys, apparel, and photography equipment.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, which he had sent to the athletic offices at Ohio State.
Yeah.
So apparently,
That was back in 2015, yeah.
apparently McMurphy, the great journalist that he is, got a hold of the itemized list of things he ordered.
Oh yes.
You ready for this?
Yes. Do it.
Among the items, men's spider enhancer thong triple cock ring.
Stop.
That's one.
So wait.
That's one thing.
I need to ask something though. This was a single item or multiple items?
There are multiple items. That was one single item.
Did he order multiples of the triple enhanced cock ring or whatever else?
I don't know.
Because as sports bettors, we need to know if the entire team is wearing this, how that would affect their future win totals, and whether or not we should be looking at the over or under.
Well, considering a white guy ordered cock rings and the whole team's more than likely black, I'm going to guess that it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Fair enough. Okay.
Bodywear CS2 metallic erotic cockstrap gold with snake skin. That was item number 2.
Oof.
A wild man red ball lifter. That's one self-explanatory.
That actually sounds like the most normal thing so far.
And Candyman red men's jock suspenders, which I'm guessing probably are like a Borat kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I would picture.
Apparently, Smith's attorney told McMurphy the items were gag gifts for other members of the staff, friends, and family.
Were they hazing people?
I think I call.
I mean, yeah, you can't, in a professional work environment, buy sex toys for your coworkers as gag gifts and then
deliver them to your apartment.
And not end up in the human resources office with somebody screaming at you. Like,
exactly. I mean, even if you guys are that tight-knit, all it takes is one little thing to piss off or offend, one of your assistants or coaches, whatever you want to call it. But it says all items were delivered at Zach Smith, the Woody Hayes Athletic Center in Columbus, Ohio on May 15th.
Wow.
So, I guess, let's circle back around to all of this after we had our laughs. What does this do for Urban Meyer? You have a guy that's so, and I don't mean any disrespect when they say this, but it's going to come off disrespectful, that is so whacked in the head, it seems.
To me, it seems maybe he was part of that package that got delivered.
Could you imagine Urban Meyer wearing the Candyman red suspenders?
with silver body paint or something like that.
With what was it? Oh god, I gotta go back now. With the I have to make sure I not get this wrong. The spider enhancer thong triple cock ring. I can't even say it with a straight face. No, but in all seriousness, that's not even going to be happening. In all seriousness, does any of this? I mean, according to you, when you said the last reports you've seen is that the report is filed, and we're just waiting on a conclusion to this, correct?
Well, as of Friday night, it was the entire investigation was supposed to conclude today, Sunday. What is today? The 19th.
Correct.
Sunday, August 19th. From what we heard, the report has been given to the Ohio State administration, just not yet released to the public. So that's what we're waiting on here.
So, Anthony, or Token Tony, or whatever you're going to go by today, does this fall under an Urban Meyer umbrella of lack of institutional control when you have a guy like this who now you've gone out on the defense for, allegedly twice at this point, or possibly more. I mean, this can't be good for Meyer, especially when this all came out Friday. I mean, to me, nothing is posted without intent, and for it to happen on Friday, to take it into the weekend when the decision is going to be made on Sunday privately, it's got to be the dagger, I got to imagine.
You would assume so. I mean, but like you said, they're probably going to look for any reason to try and keep him around. But
right, but I mean, if these actually come out to be true, and again, if the report's already filed, I guess this is all speculation and allegation, except for in the court of public opinion, where, like you said, 2 + 2 looks like it equals 4, even if you try to make it sound like it equals 5. They're saying it's not him, but it's his shirt. Or his tie, and what was it?
The wedding ring.
His wedding ring.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, I understand wedding rings are pretty common, but there's got to be something declarative on that wedding ring that makes them believe it's him.
Sure. Well,
especially if it's on a day that the Ohio State Buckeyes went to the White House to celebrate their national title.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what wedding ring he wears, but like mine, I actually forgot mine today, but mine's...
Just taking dick pics and put it on the toilet paper holder.
Mine's rather unique. Like, you would be able to tell if I were holding my dick in my hand and you saw that wedding ring in there, you would say, hey, that's your ring. We know that that's your cock.
Well, if you domestic violence, beat your wife, and took dick pics in the White House, you might be holding your cock in your hand a lot more.
Yeah, you make a valid point. Although I think I'd take my ring off if I had to do that kind of thing.
Some people aren't that smart, I guess.
Yeah.
The question is how did these surface? Did he send them to his wife?
I think the ex-wife is just alleging it.
Okay.
I think she's just, this is one more thing that she is coming out and saying. Now, I mean, that's a
hell of an accusation with basically no factual.
Well, and that's kind of the problem, is that this is a week that we have seen, batshit crazy accusations from people that were demonstrably false. And I'm thinking, So if you want to bring up the article, you can. But I mean, this was pretty well published. One of the women that just accused Steve Wynn of sexual harassment then came out and said that she had this, that, and the other thing, like all sorts of crazy shit in her life, including saying that she was a model for a Pablo Picasso picture that was painted 10 years before she was born. So that doesn't lend credibility, and that's only going to hurt people that have actual allegations that they want to throw out there, and and it's going to hurt the credibility of Smith's ex-wife, who's alleging, oh yeah, that's his dick in these pictures at the White House. Well, now we've got this taint of this. The idiot was really the wrong word choice.
I guess the question I have is that the only way she would know about them is if, one, she was sent the pictures, or two, he showed her the pictures at another time when their marriage or their relationship was at a higher point.
Right.
Well, the article I'm reading, it says his ex-wife took multiple photos of his genitalia in Ohio State coach's office, and
okay, yeah, I don't see that. But what I'm seeing is that, there's no evidence that he sent them to her. So for her to make up an accusation, I don't want to say is just rooted in complete fantasy land, because there's always some base, and there's smoke, there's fire. But and based on what the lawyer has told Brett McMurphy, somebody's seen them. That's not Zach Smith. Somebody has seen these photos based on what we're seeing. The question I have, and it's just really a one-word answer, is if these photos exist and if they have been reported and Courtney's correct, does Urban Meyer lose his job at this point? Because I think this is the last, if he's going to lose his job, this is the last of the smoking gun.
I mean, it's tough to fire Urban Meyer because an assistant coach took dick pics and had some shit sent to the office.
But sometimes there's just too much negative publicity to overcome. It almost sometimes makes sense to just clean house.
Yeah.
And I think Ohio State has a cause. I mean, lack of institutional control. You got a guy who's, I would assume the UPS or whoever delivered these items, these sex toys, has a basis for showing, hey, look, this is when we delivered. I don't know what was in it. This is who it's from, and they can go back and check.
Usually
Okay,
just has the name on it. And
the only one I know is Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve sent all this stuff to Zach Smith, care of Ohio State athletics, blah blah blah. It just seems like it's a building block of just a. What do we talk about with DJ Durkin? The contributing to a toxic culture. From when the story about Durkin first came out, all we know is that a player passed away. Yeah. And then the reason he was on leave was contributing to a toxic culture. So like what you told me last week, there has to be a series of events that created this. So do you think that the media and people who are looking to get Meyer fired are planning these breaking news stories in a sense or in a fashion that makes it so that Ohio State kind of goes, this is just way too much. We have to start over with a new regime at this point. Because nothing at this point still, in my mind, has believed that Urban Meyer specifically should be fired for his actions. However, there just may be too much going on in this whole saga to not just clear the entire regime, and that it would include the athletic director at that point.
Just completely wipe it clean, start fresh, and
correct me if I'm wrong, but with the Jerry Sandusky situation, including Paterno, there is no evidence of that anywhere in Happy Valley, with the exception of their records on the field. I don't believe there's any staffers still. There is a complete wipe of that entire time frame. Mm-hmm. So I could see a situation where this is obviously probably not on the same par, but still in a situation where Ohio State doesn't want this to stick around and linger any longer than it will.
Right, but the flip side of that is if these are coming from the detractors and this is coming from Smith's ex-wife, at what point do we think that, at what point do we stop and think maybe this is like a Gish Gallop that you would do in politics? Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say Gish Gallop?
Is it like a poll or a focus group?
No, it's.
I know what the Gallup poll is.
I'll explain it for the listeners anyway. Gish Gallop is.
It's cute. He said listeners with an S on the end.
Yes, for us when we listen on YouTube and hit mute, so that it's just playing in the background, so we get the views. Gish Gallop is a political strategy where basically you throw out so many lies and innuendos and potential scandals about your opponent that they just don't have the time, energy, or patience to respond to all of them.
Okay.
And at some point they are going to forget something, and then you can hit them on whatever they forgot. So at some point we have to say, there's a lot coming out, but why is it kind of this like trickling out effect? Why is it only coming out now that Smith had these photos? Why didn't it come out at the beginning of the investigation or even beforehand? Like, why is the ex-wife just talking about this now? So these are the kinds of questions I think that are going to come up when people start saying, start trying to piece this all together is, yes, there is a lot that is going against Urban Meyer and his administration because at the end of the day, the buck stops there when it comes to the football team. But I think at some point you kind of have to take a step back and say, okay, how much of this is true? How much of this is false? How much of this is just somebody trying to get Urban Meyer in trouble? How much of this is, actual truth? How much of this was an abuse of power or lack of control or whatever you want to call it at Ohio State? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot to consider here. And yes, this is bad. This looks bad for Urban Meyer. Yes, this adds even more credence to the fact that maybe he was just kind of letting the inmates run the asylum or whatever the proper fucking expression is.
Yeah, it works.
But, it's, you can't just take, just because there were too many allegations, you have to say which ones are true, which ones are false, how bad are the true ones, and from those, how much do we care and how much is that going to hurt Urban Meyer?
Now, take a complete flip side approach to this to play devil's advocate. What if it comes out that this is all false? This Courtney Smith allegations, all of them, the domestic violence, the dick pics in the bathroom, which that one looks a little more smoking than the other one, considering that the police never made any arrests formally in the domestic violence allegations. Can Courtney or even Brett McMurphy at this point be arrested and charged with a slander or libel accusation. Or lawman.
No. I mean, I'd obviously have to check with the wife on that one to see what the proper procedure is. I don't think anybody would ever get arrested for that kind of thing.
This comes so far out of left field.
Yeah,
I mean, dick pics in the White House. One, at first, I'm kind of like, yeah, as long as he's in a closed stall, who cares?
Yeah.
I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but and I can't say I've ever taken them before myself in a public restroom or at all. But who cares? As long as he's not whipping his dick out in the middle of the White House lawn garden. I mean, I understand you represent, but it sounded like they were private material. And who here in this world does not have private material? Whether you want it to get out or not.
I mean, I'm just looking over at Tony. I know he was going to make some kind of zoom lens joke when you were saying that you hadn't taken dick pics. Like, oh, yeah, because they hadn't put zoom lenses on cell phone cameras until...
Oh, you paused a little in between his statement.
Yeah, I saw you kind of rearing back like you wanted to get in there, so I needed to make sure that point was heard.
At this point, my phone's unlocked and laying on the table, so I wanted you all to think that there's nothing on there that you want.
Sure, I don't want to see any of those on your phone.
Mm-hmm. That's why it says that my password was locked for too many failed attempts to get in. Anyways, my point being is that there really is no case, so somebody can actually make those kind of accusations, and if they turned out to be completely false, there's no ramifications for that in the media or as a person. I mean,
no, there would be ramifications, but I think it would be civil, not criminal. Okay. Unless you would say that the criminal aspect would be any of the false domestic violence accusations would be like false police reports.
Okay,
that sort of
police report, sure.
That sort of thing would be criminal, but if I went in the media and I said, Aaron's a fucking asshole and he's a liar and he, beats up people at his place of employment, they wouldn't arrest me for slander.
Right,
but
that's actually true.
You could sue me for slander.
Sure.
and then
reparations for that,
right.
or ramifications or whatever. One of those R words. I get what you're saying. So it just seems like, all right, well, let's take a vote here. Just a very short vote. We expect these findings or this decision to come out today or tomorrow. I know you and I have talked about this, but that was before all of these things came to light on Friday. Urban Meyer, is he on the sidelines game one?
How it's looking right now, unlikely. I mean, I feel like if he does stay around, they'll probably suspend him in a couple of games. I mean, just...
So you and I, we talked last week, I think 2 games.
Yeah.
And that was before these allegations. I still think 2 games.
Yeah, 2. Maybe they go 3.
I don't think they want to suspend him for TCU.
Right, and that's kind of the issue is, would the school knowingly put themselves kind of behind the 8 ball, suspending him for that big of a game? I don't know. It's going to be a tough sell no matter what they do.
Right.
Because, we've talked about this, that there are going to be detractors no matter what they do. I think 2 is still comfortable. 3, they probably get some questionable looks from people, but I think they could still justify a 3rd game.
The thing is I got to imagine, like I said, I'm on the situation where he's not getting fired because his specific actions have nothing to do with this, unless they just want to use the lack of institutional control and get rid of him, which, again, one of the best coaches in America at this point, that's hard-pressed to say that they're going to find anybody better.
Right.
Especially who wants to step into a program that, I mean, do we think Ohio State could face sanctions from the NCAA at this point?
Oh. It never even crossed my mind, yeah. I don't see why not. I mean,
they're not paying athletes, they're not... Crossing, again, there's 300,000 rules in the NCAA rule book, but
right.
I can't think of one that's come out that said that they were breaking this specific NCAA violation that would cause, X punishment.
No, but it's still a black mark on the face of the NCAA.
Right.
And they're the umbrella. They don't take kindly to that.
No. But that could, at the rate they go, that could be another 3-year investigation. Yeah, I think 2 still. I think if they wanted to go 3, like you said, they could justify it. It'd be hard-pressed to say that they really want Urban Meyer not on the sidelines against TCU, and I believe it's in Fort Worth.
It is.
But if they decided to make it 3 or maybe even 4 games, that would be the show of we take this very seriously, but all of the things that have come out, especially in the recent events, are problems related to Zach Smith and not to Coach Urban Meyer. Coach Urban Meyer, they'll probably come out with a statement like, everyone has that friend that it's really hard to finally leave their side until you finally do, and sometimes it's too late. Mm-hmm. It's funny, I watch a show called Shameless. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or seen it.
I've heard of it, but...
And basically it's a family of 6 whose mom's a deadbeat, dad's a deadbeat. But for some reason, the dad kept doing just a little bit enough to stay in their lives to make them, we'll give them another chance. Well, finally, on season 7, and they finally, I think, just have cut him off. So I think he said, there's a friend that, you want to give chances to or always comes around and seems to do the right thing. Like Tony Johnson said, he was a great recruiter. So what he was able to provide, like you talk about Ray Rice. Ray Rice wasn't able to be a top-flight running back anymore, so he was done out of the league. Greg Hardy was still able to be a good defenseman. So given what he did, he stayed in the league for 1 or 2 more years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've seen it.
LaShawn McCoy, potentially.
Time and time again. Richie Incognito still had skills, so he still found another job after his shit.
So, exactly. So we'll see. I guess, it's like I said, a buddy who eventually you just can't give that 5th chance to at this point. So
yeah,
we'll find out in the next couple of days what is the fate of Urban Meyer, and we'll see the fallout from all of this, because that's just what's going to happen. It's going to be in our face, especially leading up to football season, which I guess is 10 days away now at this point. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, until the first real game start, yeah.
So let's move on to some pro football. We had the second week of preseason games, concluding with Monday night's game, which is the Colts and the Ravens. And I want to get your all's opinion on this, because I think you and I have talked about this before, Token. Mm-hmm. But the Colts and Ravens currently, the Colts are currently a 1-point favorite at a 110 juice. The money line, they're currently a favorite of 115. Mm-hmm. As a bettor yourself, what to you seems like the better value in that spot? Laying the 1 point for 5 cents of juice, or just taking the money line and paying the extra 5 cents?
To me, for a preseason game, I think you pay that extra 5% just in case of an event of a tie.
Do they tie in preseason?
It's possible. I mean, they have the same
NFL rules, I guess. Yeah.
Same NFL rules as the regular season.
So you're saying that if they just happen to tie, you would push at that point.
Yeah.
But for 5 cents?
For 5 cents, I think it's a value because it's preseason.
I mean, I think at that point it's worth shopping around, because right now I just brought up the William Hill app, and they're both at a pick'em.
Oh, I bet it this morning.
It is a +0 spread right now.
So it's 110 either way, or 115 either way?
110 either way.
So,
I mean, that's the kind of thing where, we're talking about such little juice that it probably doesn't matter to pay it just to get that extra point, just because it's football, it's preseason, you never know exactly what's going to happen, especially with these fucking idiotic helmet tackle rules that they have out there now. So you just don't, it's too early for us to tell how these types of penalties and how the players are going to adjust and how that's going to affect the game. So I want that extra point, and I'll pay the extra nickel for it. But again, it's worth shopping around, because
doesn't that seem like a more short-sighted view? Because just say that you're in a long run betting these. Okay, so in the long run, if I push, most of them and lose a couple, but usually win them outright, those pushes, I feel like. Excuse me, not the pushes. The losses, I feel like, are going to cost me less in the long term, even at 5 cents juice. Especially not 5 cents juice when it's, we're $50 or less bettors, but a guy who's betting 1,000 on the game, 5% juice is huge.
Yeah.
So it just seems, I don't know. I mean, I feel like taking that point. Because if you're betting the money line, you're assuming they're going to win anyways. And, I mean, how often do ties happen? I don't have the exact statistics in front of me. But
it's very unlikely, but and you got to also think in the event of preseason.
I don't think I've ever seen a tie in the preseason.
Well, no. You're thinking about what if you win by exactly 1 point?
Well, then I push.
Yeah, you would push.
But for all the times, a 1 point spread is virtually a pick'em, like he's talking about, which it now is. So a 1 point spread doesn't make me feel the greatest about being, I bet the favorite. So in the grand scheme of things, let's say a 1 point spread essentially is a pick'em, and you still have to win 53% of the time. Well, if they lose the game 50% of the time as a 115 favorite, I'm going to be in the hole a lot. Mm-hmm. So I've got to figure laying that point, and on the times that they do win, on the random times that it's going to be a 1 point dead victory, it seems like it's a minimal risk for returning that 5 cents. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I was kind of thinking about that when I made the bet, because when you look at it, you're like, why not just take the point and add the 5 cents juice? But over time, if you keep doing that on 1 point spreads and you're losing, and say that every time you bet this 1 point spread, they lose outright, the Colts, because they were the favorite. Then they lose outright 70% of the time. At 5 cents a pop, what's that, $3.50? Mark that up to however big your bet is or your unit. $3.50 matters. No?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. And you're thinking long term. What I'm saying is that if I'm looking at one game,
right,
and at one game at that one shot, I want to give myself the best chance to win. And if I feel that 1 point is going to make or break the difference, then I'll pay the 5 cents.
Mm-hmm. Right, and like I said, over a 1 game sample size, you're right. Paying the 5 cents. I'm trying to think of somebody who's betting long term, because ultimately, if you're actually attempting, which we're all recreational here, but if you're actually attempting to make long term money at this, little edges like that matter. And again, it's not necessarily an edge because you're giving up a point, but you're paying less juice.
Mm-hmm. Usually, for a full point, you're usually giving about 10% juice, though, in my mind.
Well, so here you're giving up less.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Just something I was thinking about. I was kind of wanted to get your all's take on it.
I know sometimes if you buy like half a point on William Hill or something, sometimes it's even 10% for.
Yeah, sometimes if you have to buy points, yes, but if they're advertised lines,
yeah.
You taught me that in baseball, actually. Mm-hmm. That was something I learned in baseball about the 30-cent lines. They were usually 30 cents off.
Usually 20.
20 cents.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think I didn't know that.
Well, actually 10, and it goes up depending on how big a favorite is, of course.
Right, of course.
It starts off at 10, and it could be minus 105 both ways for a pick'em on William Hill.
Interesting. So, anyways, I was just more curious about that, because I feel like the amount of ties, even in regular season, the percentage of that occurring is very low. I feel like, as much as you try to basically get yourself angled over all facets of betting a game, there's still a gamble involved. Mm-hmm. So I was just curious if laying that point to pay less juice over the long run would seem to be a smarter bet than paying more juice and then just hoping they win. Because if every time you cover the 1, you cover it by, say they win by 3 every time, just to use a number. Mm-hmm. Say they win by 3 to 7 points every single time. Paying the money line would also cost you money in the long run as well. If every time the Colts covered, say they covered 60% of the time on this, then you're talking about 6 out of every 10 times you're losing a nickel. Or excuse me.
4 out of every time.
Well, 10 out of every 10 times you're technically losing a nickel. The 4 times you lose, you're losing your entire bet.
Oh, yeah.
But the 6 times...
You're losing a nickel only about 4 out of 10 times.
No, you're losing a nickel every time you...
No, because if you're winning 6 out of 10, you're still getting that nickel back. Nickel back.
Right, but you're not getting that nickel back in payouts.
No, you're right about that, but...
Right, so if I'm betting $65 to win 50 on the 115, but on a 110 I'm betting, 65 to win, 56, I think? So I'm actually losing $6 almost every bet. Is that correct?
No, it's not that much.
Yeah, it can't be that
$3? I'm never good with odds, as far as not directly on the numbers.
It would be, for $50, it would be... $2.50.
So you'd be betting $62.50?
Be
riveting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Fair enough. So I'm saying every time, the 6 times you win that bet, you're going to lose that money. That's got to add up over the long run.
Right. Again,
I know you're saying one single bet.
Yeah.
If I have to win it, I'm going to take a money line and not risk. If I think the Colts are going to win, whether it be by 1 or 100, you're going to lay the 5 cents.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to think long term. If I wanted to become a long term, more than recreational bettor, I feel like that's got to hurt. And I really want to talk to somebody who would really think about laying that point. Because not a lot of games, I'd have to get the numbers, but there's not a lot of games that fall on the 1. They usually games fall on the 3, 7, 10, and 14. Mm-hmm. So falling on the 1 seems like I'm giving away money at that point, long term. Again, I understand what Spike's saying. With one game to win, I don't want to take any chances. I'm going to take that point back. Because if they win by 1, I don't want to have to sweat
a push.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. For preseason, I would probably more likely be doing the money line. For regular season, I'd probably just do a 1 point.
Fair enough.
If I liked it. I think there's a lot more variance in preseason, and a 1 point spread is more probable happening in preseason than regular season.
Well, right, because you're effectively looking at, especially the second week of the preseason, is whose backups are more quality, or how much do the guys, how much do you have a new coach who's trying to make an impression? How much do you have guys a roster who more needs to make the team than a roster who's more firmly entrenched in their positions?
Let's not forget that in preseason they're going to try the 2-point conversion plays significantly more often because they're plays they want to work on.
Right. And they're also going to run, probably depending on what the score is, or sometimes not even, they're also going to run more conservatively or aggressively than in normal spots in a regular season game. I saw the Jets-Redskins game where 2 minutes left, the Jets are down 6-3, and they're not running the 2-minute drill.
No.
So it didn't seem to matter then. They were more concentrated on Darnold producing quality offensive plays than trying to run down and get a field goal that ties them up at half, because, again, it doesn't really matter at that point. Mm-hmm. So I actually and this is the first year I've ever done it, I've actually been more invested in preseason betting because I actually feel that there's an advantage. As much as people say you're crazy, it's stupid, it's so...
I think they're...
You can eventually sometimes get 1s versus 2s, 2s versus 3s, 3s versus 1s. 3s versus 1s a little less often, but you can get more spots where it's not 1s versus 1s like in a regular season game where the theoretical parity in the NFL is very minute between the Browns and the Patriots. Mm-hmm. So catching spots in preseason where you can pick up value is, I think, undersold because a lot of people just assume, why the hell are you betting preseason football, which I think is what he's thinking.
Mm-hmm. No, I was the one last week or 2 weeks ago that said...
You were looking at me like, what the hell are y'all doing betting preseason? No, maybe he's more on a...
No, well, I've always said that betting preseason is the smartest thing you can do because it's the only time coaches are going to come out and tell you the game plan before the game.
That's true, too. Yeah, he did say that. You're right. I apologize. So, anyways, let's talk about some on-the-field stuff, and where do you guys want to start? There's a couple of things going on, some a little more prevalent than others. Josh Gordon returning to Cleveland, does he have enough time to get on track with this whole new, basically, cast of characters that are... I mean, look at everybody around him. I mean, Joe Thomas is gone, a couple of offensive linemen, but you got Carlos Hyde, Nick Chubb, Tyrod Taylor, excuse me, his name is Tyrod, not Tyrod.
Yeah.
Tyrod Taylor, Jarvis Landry, Corey Coleman's gone. Like, no one that he played with in the last couple of years is there anymore. Mm-hmm. And potentially Des Bryant. Is Josh Gordon going to be a prime receiver this year? And I don't want to talk fantasy football because that's not our podcast, but it kind of falls under that as well. Does he have enough time, or is he talented enough to just basically walk right into this situation and it be positive for him?
I think he's talented enough to prove himself worthy of coming back and being the difference maker on the field.
Almost 3 years?
Something
2
like
years?
Definitely 2.
Yeah. That's a lot. I mean, his talent alone at this point, may or may not be good enough. If they sign Des Bryant, does Josh Gordon lose reps?
Oh, for sure. If they sign...
They don't have another guy who can stretch the field like him, though.
No, but if they sign Des Bryant, then Josh Gordon becomes... Josh Gordon no longer is the number 1 option. He's the number 2, number 3. Mm-hmm. Maybe they move him to, or try him out in like slant routes or something else. They try to. They might try to put him in different situations, even as a decoy, putting him out there, like what the Patriots do with Gronkowski in his first game back from injuries, which happen every year now, it seems.
Seems like, yeah.
That's always kind of the consideration is how can we use these people differently than what the other team is going to expect to give us the advantage. And I think with Josh Gordon, they can find a way in this offense to get him to kind of move around a little bit differently than what defenses are used to seeing, and that might be able to create opportunities for him. The problem is, I think he's been out of the game too long. And
that's what scares me.
Yeah, the NFL is too fast, it evolves too quickly, and if you're not in it every day, if you're not playing every week, I don't see how you get re-caught up.
Yeah, that's the scary thing, is because, and again, I'll take this fantasy-wise for a little bit, for a second, and he's soaring up draft boards, but like you said, it's based on what people saw 2 or plus years ago on the field. You have a whole totally different coordinator in Haley, totally different coach from when he played, and a totally different quarterback and entire offense from when the last time he played. It's not like he's jumping right back into everything that he was used to at that point. So I feel like he's a stay away at that point. But him returning, at least theoretically, gives them a mental advantage because, like you said, while he could be used as a decoy and could be used to receive targets, it's not that hard to tell a receiver to go deep.
Right.
And he's the deep threat in that team.
Yeah, and, they don't necessarily need him to be the shiftiest guy. They just need him to be the fastest. The problem is he the fastest anymore? And he probably would be if you were on the Browns as a receiver. But I don't know that he is uncoverable.
Sure. And also the thing is you don't know if he's as fast as he was 2 years ago. Because when he came back from reinstatement, he still hasn't been back yet. Due to what we believe is drug rehab. But they don't really have public information about that, which is fine.
Yeah.
So, what about, did you watch any of that Chiefs-Falcons game?
No, I missed that one.
I'm sure you saw the highlight of Patrick Mahomes' 75-yard bomb in the air.
No.
From the 20.
I missed a lot this weekend. I'll admit that.
Guy threw it in the air from the 20 all the way to the 5. In the air and hit Tyreek Hill, a streaking Tyreek Hill, like in stride. And I still, based on that one throw, I'm not ready to move Mahomes up my board. I still think the Chiefs are in trouble because I don't think they improved the offensive line, and Sammy Watkins probably is an irrelevant signing, but we'll see. I think that he showed some flashes of if the offensive line breaks down, I have the ability to say, here's a 70-yard bomb, just go.
Yeah. It's like Jamarcus Russell with brains.
Yeah, there you go. So, I know my thoughts on Mahomes. Like I said, I think he's near the bottom of the quarterbacks, especially regardless of his potential. But anybody else seem to think differently about what Pat can do?
I think he has brief potential, but I would agree. I would put him towards the bottom, like around the 2/3 mark of starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm not ready to put him in Canton yet, unlike some Chiefs fans. But, he'll be an interesting watch. He'll be an interesting follow. He's the kind of guy, if we're talking fantasy, which I know is kind of sketchy on some podcasts, but he's the kind of guy, like, if your quarterback gets hurt, give him a look, see what his stats look like. And
isn't it amazing how people can make a career talking about fantasy when it's theoretically mostly guessing?
Oh, yeah, and it's also crazy to think, I think the last numbers I saw said that fantasy sports in this country last year made more money than both the music and movie industries combined.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're talking 70 billion plus.
Well, you can't pirate fantasy sports.
Well, fair enough, yeah.
Whether legal or illegal, well, many would say fantasy sports are illegal, and in some jurisdictions they are. But everybody, I think fantasy sports maybe has gotten a little too far. From what I read, that there's a lot of death threats and Twitter battles, and you guys don't do that, do you?
What, no. Death threats and Twitter battles? No.
With athletes?
No. Oh, no. No, I have heard about that, though. You're right.
I know that you don't have to worry about your line, like tweeting your lines, because you're just.
I remember one time, this was probably 15 years ago, I was at a Tigers game. And,
A what game?
A Tigers game, so baseball.
Tuggers?
Tigers.
Tuggers?
Tigers.
Tuggers? Are you at Zach Smith's bathroom party? It sounds like Tuggers, doesn't it?
Yes, that's what I was like.
I was sitting by the bullpen, and this guy's like, Todd Jones, I need you to get 2 strikeouts for my fantasy tonight. He's like, oh shit, I need you to get it 3. I'm fucked. I think he gave up 2 earned runs or something.
Yeah, wasn't he the king of blowing saves? Todd Jones.
His nickname was Todd Blones.
Was that on-field performance or off?
Could have been both.
Yeah, well, he did play for the Tuggers. So. Let's talk about some quarterback situations. Jameis Winston looked pretty good the other night, and this is his make-it-or-break-it year, and obviously it's not going to start off well because he's suspended for the first 3 games of the season. But, I mean, anything show you guys that this could be the year that Jameis might put it all together? I call it the Blake Bortles year because Blake was kind of like average, and then on this contract year, he let him do an AFC title game. Or is there just simply not enough not enough time, not enough effort, not enough resources to keep him around?
To me, it's got to be. He's definitely got to prove himself, and it's got to be absolutely without a doubt to keep him around. If it's marginal at best, I believe he's gone.
I just feel like it's such a tough road to climb because, well, let's face it, as of right now, they have 0 running game. Doug Martin's gone. Peyton Barber has not been anything. He's been with the Bucs for 1 season. They drafted Ronald Jones, the burner out of USC, who could be, something. If in time, he's probably not going to start the season as the number 1 guy. They got Mike Evans, they got Deshaun Jackson, so it's not like they are without weapons, but they play in my opinion, the toughest division in football.
That was exactly the point I was going to make, is that the division is too tough for them to overcome. Does
it feel like it's almost unfortunately he's set up for failure by something that's not the Bucs doing?
Right.
Because, Ryan's going to get the first 3. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to get the first 3 games as far as...
I didn't even realize that dude was still in the league.
Yeah, he's still in the league.
Wow.
And let's see, their first...
Harvard product, right?
He was from Harvard. And he played for the Tuggers. Let's see, the Bucs are going to play... I'm trying to pull up their schedule here of their first 3 games that Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be there. He's going to be New Orleans, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very slim chance that they're 1-2 coming out of that. More than likely 0-3. And then when Jameis comes, they go to Chicago versus Atlanta, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Carolina, and Washington, and the Giants. So I think that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game stretch is Jameis Winston's career.
It sure seems like it. Yeah, if he goes 4-3 in that stretch, he looks pretty damn good.
I'd say he'd have to do better than that.
Yeah, but
I'd say if they're 0-3 when he comes back, if he can somehow go 5-2 and lead them basically into the last part of their season 5-5, then they get the Niners, Panthers, Saints, Ravens, Dallas, Atlanta. Can 9-7 keep Winston around one more year, especially if they started the season 0-3?
You think they can go 4-2 in those last 6 games?
I think they're better against their divisional opponents than others can be. Like they beat New Orleans last year.
Yeah.
With Fitzpatrick. So again, that number 1, that's the only game I think they can beat in the first 3 at New Orleans. They beat New Orleans at home with Fitzpatrick. What I'm saying is that okay, so we're talking about the last 6 games. I think they can beat Carolina and New Orleans. I think they can beat Baltimore. They can have a chance against Atlanta. San Francisco at home coming across again. We don't know what Jimmy G is. As of right now, I don't think he is what everybody's crowning him at. I think he's going to go through some pains this year. But that's another conversation.
All right.
I think, am I guaranteeing 4-2? No. But can they go 4-2? Sure.
it's realistic, but I would say unlikely.
But I mean, you got to think they have a chance to beat Chicago.
Oh yeah,
They got a chance to beat Cleveland, Cincinnati,
Yeah.
Washington, and the Giants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm with you on those.
they probably have less of a chance to go into Atlanta and Carolina and win, but they still have a chance. That's that centerpiece of that
how
schedule.
They play in all that. I mean, it's
right.
The division games are always play probably your hardest as players and coaches.
I think they can beat Baltimore, and I think they could walk into Dallas and beat them. I'm not saying it's highly likely, but it's not like Dallas is a place. It's not like it could go either way. There's a chance. I mean, again, with the parity of the NFL, if Jameis Winston knows that this is the end of this is his last chance. I mean,
right.
There's a chance, because I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I think there's just some situations where he's making mental errors. And if you can keep yourself out of mental errors, you can be good enough to win football games. I think that's the Alex Smith approach. Again, he's a guy I really like, Alex Smith, because he doesn't make the mistakes, and he every once in a while takes a shot where you don't expect him to take a shot. So I think the Buccaneers have a chance. I still think they're going to finish in the bottom of the division, but I still think they may finish at 8-8 versus. I think they'll finish closer to 8-8 than they will 4-12.
Oof, I don't know. I think you have more faith in Jameis Winston being able to lift this team, especially against divisional opponents, than I do. Obviously, like we said, any team has a chance against any team any Sunday. I mean, that's given. But I think if they go 8-8, I would be shocked. I think this is more like a 5-11, 6-10 type team.
I would absolutely agree with that statement. As right now, I'm looking at their total for wins this season, and right now the over/under is 6.5 on William Hill.
6.5,
and the over is plus 130.
Yeah,
which is totally realistic.
Yeah, that feels about right to me.
Yeah, and I'd probably lay the juice and take the under.
Fair enough. All right. Well, maybe we have a prop bet on our hands here.
All right.
Potentially, yeah.
All right. So the 6.5 is the total for them.
6.5, yes.
All right. Well, let's see. You give me the hook, I'll take it.
What?
You want to give me the hook if you think
6?
it's a 4-12 team? Want to just make it 6?
Make it 6 for even.
Yeah, I'll take. So 6 would be a push.
Yeah, 6 and 10's a push.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do it.
No, I'll take it. Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it for $20.
No.
So wait, I got to pay out twice. So I'm in for 40. That's a hell of a juice for an over/under. I'm on a minus 200 juice for this. Hold on.
No.
You and I already have the William Carlson goal total bet. So
what was that? 26.5.
26.5.
I'm gonna write these down.
I will sit this one out if you and Tony want the the Tampa Bay wins.
I'll do it. 6 is a push. If it's more, I give you 20. If it's less, you give me 20. No juice.
Okay, that's fair. So 6 is a push. 5 and less goes to Token. 7 and over goes to me.
4
and over goes to me. All right, I'll take that.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on from Jameis, and we'll talk about the Redskins right now. Obviously, if you haven't heard by this point, their first-round pick or their second-round pick, Geis, is out for the year. Torn ACL, blah, 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 all that. But there's been talks that the Redskins are – actually, there hasn't been talks. They're hosting AP for a workout, Adrian Peterson, this Monday, tomorrow. Or maybe today by the time you listen to this podcast. Or maybe 6 weeks ago by the time you listen to this podcast. Is this a good idea? Or is this one of those, it can't hurt, probably won't end in a contract?
Can't hurt. It could end in a contract. I mean, it just depends what they're willing to pay him and how he looks. I mean, if he looks marginal.
He looks bald.
Well, I mean, if he looks bald and arm.
Got him! Tuggers. The question is, though, like, okay, so Geis is out. P. Ryan's hurt. Rob Kelly was very ineffective last year. Chris Thompson's really good as a receiving threat, but not as a running back who runs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like...
He's a receiving threat. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, yeah, there we
like
go.
a Theodore Riddick.
Yeah, but he's better.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Point being is he's a receiving threat. He's more of along the lines of a Shane Green or a Deion Lewis. Theo Riddick, fucking guy. I think that might make sense for them to bring him in.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, well, especially because you got to figure that the fake Gruden is on the absolute hot seat this year.
Fake Gruden.
Yeah, nobody gives. I mean, he's the
other Gruden.
Yeah. Former coach in the UFL. Fuck, what is it?
Florida Tuskers.
Was it Florida?
I covered him when I worked in Orlando.
Oh, did you? All right. I knew it was UFL, but I thought it might have been the Omaha Nighthawks.
He might have been there too, but when I was in Orlando, he was actually. When I lived in Orlando, he was both the Florida Tuskers head coach and the Orlando Predators quarterback at different times.
I like that. But, I mean, he's got to be on the absolute hot seat, so he has to pull out all the stops to not finish bottom of the division, kind of out of the playoffs and everything else. So if he thinks that Adrian Peterson has enough left in the tank to help the Redskins win games, then they have to bring him on board. Yeah, and it could only be to save Gruden's job. But this is a team that's currently listed on William Hill as a win total of 6.5. So they bring in AP. That number has to go up at least a game, right?
You would think 7.5, yeah.
Yeah.
If you believe that a player of that caliber moves the total a game, that's high praise for Adrian Peterson.
Absolutely. But, I mean, this is a team that needs those extra wins. They need the extra weapons. So, I mean, the flip side of that is what's the downside of signing this guy?
Publicity. There's still a lot of people who have issues with him and the switch with his kid, the child abuse. He got suspended for, 6 games for that?
It was a chunk, yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was 4 or 6 or something like that.
So it's a situation where is his talent, well, we talk about this all the time, is what he's got left worth what the publicity?
Yeah, I think for a team like Washington with a coach that needs the weapons, he's not going to care about the publicity. It might even benefit him to bring in a player with bad publicity because it takes some of the press off of the coach and his shortcomings.
Okay.
So I don't see a downside for Washington bringing him in.
Well, the question is they're also bringing in Jamal Charles.
Yeah.
Who they thought would revive in Denver. Didn't happen. I think these guys are almost similar running backs. And if they express that and show that in these workouts, wouldn't you go with the guy who has less baggage off the field?
And you go with whoever looks better on the field. And I think you let you don't worry about the baggage.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, when you're in desperation mode, but if they look similar, maybe bring them both in.
Yeah.
It could work. Maybe even like a D'Angelo Williams or something like that. He could be something. I know he didn't play football last year, but you never know. So, anywho, let's talk about some quarterback situations, because I know you love quarterbacks. And speaking of one quarterback situation that may have, what's the word I'm looking for, cleared up a little bit, looks like your boy Josh Allen's probably going to be the Bills starter.
Oh, what a fucking break for the Patriots. I love it.
Did the Bills become the worst team in that division now? Because I don't think they were with AJ McCarron.
I don't know.
I don't really feel good because I bet them at 8.5 to 1 to win the division, and I don't feel good about it anymore.
The Jets might still be the worst.
Really? I mean, they've got 3 capable quarterbacks. I think the Jets are in a position of promise because they don't have to rush Darnold. They could run either one of those 2 out there and still win 6 games this year. Again, 6 games not going to win the division, but you got a rookie quarterback who, and Spike will attest, hasn't looked that good.
No.
At least Darnold's looked good. They got 2 quarterbacks on the Jets roster who can play football, at least at this level. Bills, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying the Bills, although without McCarron, they might be the worst team in that division.
I think they are by a mile now. You were right with A.J. McCarron makes them better. I could probably have flipped a coin between the Bills and the Jets being bad, but now with McCarron out, it's got to be the Bills. Starting a shit rookie day one when you're coming into the NFL, he's going to get thrown to the wolves and he's going to get eaten alive.
It's either that or they go with the Nathan Peterman experience, and we all remember that last year. That was a train wreck.
Yeah, I think you go with Allen.
I think you have to go with Allen because, I mean, you're not planning to go forward with Peterman at any point, so grooming him or developing him doesn't do anything. Again, maybe you are because his 5-interception performance could be a fluke. But you signed McCarron to do a job, because if you really thought you could bring Allen in year 2, you probably would have stayed with Peterman. Correct?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have signed A.J. McCarron. Well, I guess you could sign him to a 2-year deal at that point. But, I mean, making the playoffs last year, I think, earned, for the first time in, 18 years, I think that earned them a little good faith.
Yeah. And I think if the Bills say, number one quarterback's hurt, number 2, we're just going to kind of throw him out there and see what he does.
He's going to get the reps the next 2 games, correct? I would imagine he's going to start.
Oh, he's got it, yeah.
Peterman.
You think Peterman starts?
I think you got to see what you can get with him. They're not ready to put Allen out there. He get killed. But
both of these quarterbacks are terrible, but you just spent a first-round pick on Allen.
Yes, but A.J. McCarron only broke his collarbone. It's not like he tore his ACL.
No, I understand that, but I think the Bills have to think long-term the season is not salvageable. Like, they were going to be tough to get into the playoffs no matter what they did this year anyway.
Right, I agree.
So having this kind of setback where McCarron, I don't even know what the prognosis is for McCarron.
He's a broken collarbone. He's about 6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay. So then that's -2 preseason. So call it first 4 weeks.
Let's call it 5 games. First 5 games.
First 5 games, okay.
In case it doesn't heal right or not ready to go in yet.
So what's the best case scenario for those 5 games for the Bills right now? Like, realistic best case scenario, what's their record after those 5 games? Is it 2-3?
Well, best case. Let's see what their schedule shapes up to be here. I'm going to try to pull it up real quick.
The long-term point I'm making is...
They play at Baltimore, play home against the Chargers, at Minnesota, at Green Bay, and then home against the Titans.
With those specific home games, their best chance is probably 3-2. I think they could beat LA because LA is coming across the country. I think they can beat Tennessee in Buffalo. And I don't think they're going to beat Minnesota or Green Bay on the road, and they could beat Baltimore.
Yeah.
So their best case scenario is probably 3-2.
I think 2-3. I think Baltimore and LA.
Fine. That's interchangeable.
Yeah. So I don't see them beating Tennessee. But the point is, if they were going to be borderline to make the playoffs anyway, and now they're hamstrung with this injury, where we know that they're going to be behind the 8 ball to start the season no matter what. I think the team just kind of has a fuck it mentality. They put Allen out there and they say, go 0-5. We don't give a shit. Just play your best. Do what you can. Develop. Treat it like preseason games. Just go out there and run the team the best way that you can and see what he gives you.
Okay.
And then when McCarron comes back, McCarron goes in at quarterback, and then you sit Allen down and you say, all right, these are the things that you did well. So we want you to improve and keep working on those. These are the things you did poorly. Watch McCarron and get better at those. And I think this just gives the Bills more opportunity to get more film on Allen, because if they just use the film from college to determine whether or not he was good, they shouldn't have drafted him in the first fucking place.
You really don't like Josh Allen.
He is terrible. And I don't understand...
You know what? I want to hold on to these 3 podcasts, because if Josh Allen becomes Tom Brady-esque, I'm just going to replay. It's going to be the new intro to our fucking podcast.
Great. Josh Allen is garbage.
Welcome to the Vegas Squares podcast. Josh Allen is garbage.
That's wonderful. I'll be known as the Max Kellerman of the shit podcast.
Oh, he's the worst, too. Of the shit podcast. Hey, fuck you. We got views on 2 or 3.
Hey, we surfaced into Canada.
We did.
That's true. Yeah,
people looking at our site from Canada. So props to them. Was that Canadian?
Yeah, that's Canadian.
Because if I just say A on the end, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, pretty much A.
Is that like in Spanish? If you just say El Lampo, that makes it Spanish.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. Racist. Anyways.
No, it's stereotypical.
Is it? Is that the right word? Stereotypical? Oh, fuck. I just took the lineup off. What else were we talking about? That's it, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One preseason game. Oh, I don't know what the fuck that is. We'll talk about the helmet rule another day because that's going to be fun for this year. Because I'm sure we'll get lots of talking points from those from the next first couple weeks of the season. But anyways, well, we just want to say thank you for listening, and we want to thank our, what do we call them?
Sponsors or
Collaborators.
We want to thank our collaborators, 12-Ounce Sports Radio, Chai Poker, and BGK Pop Sockets. We want to thank you guys for listening. If you do, when you do, how you do, we thank you, and we will catch you on the next podcast.